Hello, my name is Stephen Smith, and my project is about the Supreme Court case Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission. This case began when Citizens United made and tried to release a movie meant to put Hillary Clinton in a bad light. The original argument was that the advertisement of the film was in violation of the 2002 Bipartisan Campaign Reform Act, which essentially says corporations and labor unions cannot spend money on political advertisements advocating or opposing specific candidates. I'm going to show you a clip of the film here, just the trailer.
I can support the president. I can support an action against Saddam Hussein. If I had been president in 2003, I never would have started this war. Well, she's flipping. She's not. No, she's not flipping. She's lying.
I apologize if the sound isn't quite great, but all in all, you can kind of get a sense that they're not in favor of Hillary Clinton. Citizens United is a conservative non-profit organization. Their stated mission is to restore the United States government to a citizens-controlled government and to assert American values of limited government, freedom of enterprise, strong families, and national sovereignty and security. A political action committee is exactly what it sounds like, just a group dedicated to political action within a corporation, union, or other association. Citizens United Political Action Committee is the American Sovereignty Project, and one of its main goals is to remove the U.S. from the United Nations, just to give you an idea of their views. What Citizens United Supreme Court case resulted in was a ruling stating that corporations, nonprofits, and labor unions could spend as much money as they want advertising any candidate whenever they want. This overturned the Federal Election Campaign Act as well as two previous Supreme Court cases. The most that American sovereignty had spent in the 2000s before the court ruling was $47,000, but in 2014 they spent $186.2 thousand, and that all went to political actions. Another court case with a similar outcome as Citizens United was Speech Now versus FEC, which ruled that no limit can be put on contributions to independent groups. These two cases gave way to birth of the super PACs, massive political action committees fueled by millions of dollars, all trying to influence elections and politics one way or the other. The first pieces of legislation to prevent political spending were the Tillman Act and the Taft-Hartley Act, which were weak and poorly enforced, but they kept things from getting out of hand. Then the Federal Election Campaign Act came out, and that began to crack down more on political spending and restrict outside sources from helping campaigns more than necessary. All of these were overturned in part or in whole by Citizens United. The thought that overturned all these previous acts is that spending is speech, and to encroach on the freedom of speech is unconstitutional. But this is assuming you consider corporations to be people, which I guess our Supreme Court does. And that leads me to the biggest topic up for debate about Citizens United ruling. Are corporations people? Even after all my research, I still don't know where I stand on the question. But here are the two arguments in a nutshell. Corporations are made up of people, and corporations can't love. And that just means corporations are made up of people, those people end up making the decisions, so corporations are people. The other one is corporations can't love. They can't act, they can't walk, talk, speak, so they don't have the actions of people, and it gets a little iffy. Both ideas seem clear to me. Under the First Amendment, if you consider corporations people, because they are run by and supplied by people, then obviously this ruling should stand. But if you think that there are too many degrees of separation between corporations, like the fact that they can amass significantly more money than any single person can, or that the people who make up the companies may not even be U.S. citizens, then the area begins to turn a dark shade of gray. One of the largest gray areas in the unlimited corporate spending is that not all corporations in America are American. I could not find any incidences of foreign-owned or foreign-interested companies significantly affecting elections yet, but Citizens United ruling was only passed in 2010. Without many elections to observe effects from, no one can say much for sure about how Citizens United has or will affect electioneering for the years to come. But the few things that have changed dramatically. Election spending reached over $1 billion in 2012, tripling from the last presidential year. A lot of people are worried about what could happen, but it's hard to say what will. Many Americans are concerned that they will soon live in a plutocracy run by the rich. Representative Gerald Nadler said, and I quote, "Perhaps one day we'll have Exxon as a colleague here in Congress." And another congresswoman said that this could be looked back upon as the next Dred Scott decision. So there are many people in Congress who do not agree with this. So I've talked enough about what could happen. Now I'll get to what is happening. Lots of legislation is in the works to try and contain political spending and prevent corruption. One of these legislative actions is to enforce disclosure requirements on nonprofits that contribute to electioneering. Right now, certain donors are required by the Federal Election Campaign Act to disclose their information if their donation contributes to a political campaign. Nonprofit organization donors, on the other hand, can be completely anonymous, but now nonprofits can contribute unlimited amounts of money to political campaigns. Do you start to see the problem? Currently, in Congress, an amendment to the FECA is being discussed so that only donations used for political engineering would have to be disclosed, but some argue that it still restricts the donor's rights to free speech. There is also a congressional interest in amending federal securities laws to require that corporations inform shareholders of the corporation's political spending, and or to require that these shareholders get the right to authorize political spending of those corporations. And this, in my opinion, is the best way for Congress to go about treating the new Citizens United ruling. And Congress seems to believe that under the Constitution's Commerce Clause that they might be able to have some leeway to impose these requirements. Some federal laws already classify some corporations that operate in the U.S. as foreign corporations, and will not allow spending directly from them to go to political campaigning. But there's nothing stopping U.S. corporations with foreign ownership from creating political action committees, and that leads to another gray area in Citizens United. Many bills have been proposed to amend the existing definition of foreign national corporations to include corporations partially under foreign ownership or control, but the question is how partial it should be. What percentage does it become a foreign corporation? It also seems like there's nothing in the Constitution that gives Congress the power to pass laws like that, so that will be an interesting thing to see in the coming years. Now, instead of foreign concerns involved with Citizens United, let me talk about something a little closer to home. In 2012, Montana's Supreme Court rejected Citizens United. Montana brought back its Corrupt Practices Act, banning corporate political expenditures, only to have the U.S. Supreme Court issue a stay on Montana court's ruling, preventing the enforcement of the act. Two Montana justices pleaded that the Supreme Court revisit Citizens United through their act, and were politely ignored. Many organizations in Montana and across all the states have been trying to get the Supreme Court to revisit the topic of corporate political expenditures through coalitions like Free Speech for People and ideas like the Fair Elections Now Act, but none of them have gotten ground yet. The obvious main worry about Citizens United is, will it make elections unfair? I feel like I have asked more questions than I've answered for you, but that's just how this new topic is. Nothing is particularly set in stone yet, and none of the expected catastrophes have actually happened. Although many things I have found say that the conservative groups vastly outspent liberal ones in the 2012 election, Obama still got reelected. But one piece of data is not enough to make a judgment on something like this. I've also heard that the Koch brothers, some very wealthy, very conservative corporation owners, plan to spend over $1 billion in the 2016 elections. So next year will definitely be eye-opening as to the effects Citizens United will have on our democratic election process. I hope I didn't bore all of you too much, and maybe now you know something you didn't before and will be watching out for it. Thank you.